Well, hello everybody for the second time today. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And I know you've been waiting for him. He's back. He's back. He's back. Caleb is back. How are you, Caleb?
Speaking of backs, I threw my back out this morning a little bit ago, so in
Yeah,
some
I
kind of
know.
stress and struggle here, but I'm okay.
Really good to have you. And I know that your back has been giving you issues lately. Lovely to see everybody in the chat. Pete, you're so lovely. Lisa D, you're so lovely. Everyone, you're so lovely. Kimberly, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. But before we go any further, Caleb, will you open for us in prayer, please?
Sure. Heavenly Father, I bring my petition and ask for healing from you for my back and for other problems I have. Thank you for helping me get through what I'm going through. I ask that you help these good people here to bless them with your presence and with your healing grace, your mercy. I ask that you open their eyes, let them see the way that they should see. Protect us and keep us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Yay. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And yeah, we had a great interview with Barack from Nasara 17 earlier today as well. It was really cool. So if you guys didn't catch that one, please, go and when you do your binge watching on Era, be sure to catch him as well and give his channel a subscribe because he's really doing some cool stuff and definitely one to follow. So today we are going to be talking about something which I think is on a lot of people's minds, hearts, whatever, angels and demons, because I think there's a lot of confusion around what's what in the pot, right, Caleb, as far as that's concerned.
Right. A lot of esoteric knowledge that most people don't know.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the choir of angels. So I know we've had some conversations about this as well. So maybe what you can do is you can start off by just telling us what you know about the angelic realms and how it all fits in. And I want to just say off the top that I think we're probably going to take a two-part series with this one. So we probably will continue tomorrow with part 2 with us as well. So yeah, over to you.
Right. So most of the known knowledge comes from history. If you're a history buff, if you know anything about it, it comes from Dionysius and his interpretations of the angelic realms. A lot of the other stuff comes from Dante's Inferno, the demonic world. But I'm going from my perspective, what I know. So it's a pretty deep subject. There's a lot of misconceptions about angels and demons. So I want to put a keyword in your ears: solfeggio.
Yeah.
Has a lot to do with music. The spiritual world has a lot to do with music. So it's really
That's
important to
that
remember.
whole the solfeggio for me is very interesting because I know solfeggio from healing frequencies. You're going to find a lot of solfeggio healing frequencies all over the internet, actually. And I know from what we've also had conversations about, I mean, everything to do in these angelic realms is like sound, frequency, and vibration, sound, obviously music, etc. And I know there's a lot of people using the solfeggio frequencies, but I'm sure it can't all be good, right?
It can be either or. It's just like a knife on the table. You can use the knife to cut and slice your bread and cheese, or you can use that knife to kill the neighbor. Either way.
Right. Absolutely.
Since we're made up of pure energy for the most part, it has a way to influence the energy of yourself.
So how does that actually work, though? Can you explain it to us how it works?
If you're aware of the spirit, if you can see, like some people can see, I sent you a video about that. If you can explain that video maybe a little bit.
Which one? The one with
the laser.
That was super interesting, actually. The guy, and this was a video that I know a couple of days you sent it to me. The guy had red laser type lights, right? And he shone them, and then he had people actually look at them and look into the light in certain, I would imagine, in a certain way. And what happened was then that the people were able to start seeing runes and stuff like that. So things like the one guy was able to like see through the wall, right? And actually start seeing different images and shapes and stuff that is most certainly not visible to the naked eye, right? So I think that in a nutshell is what it's about. Yeah.
Right. That's the hidden spirit that you don't get to see around you every day, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. That's the fabric of reality. It's called, or the tapestry, or the skein. You guys have heard me talk about the skein a few times. So,
right.
I've been able to see that since I was a young boy.
Would it be a similar thing if we're looking at people looking into that laser technology, right? Using the laser technology. Now, some people, I mean, when you're looking at the third eye, right? And that's often where people with psychic abilities or intuitive abilities would have a developed third eye, so to speak. Are we talking about a similar type thing? Would it be a third eye that is open?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
They've done everything in their power to make sure that most people's third eye is closed.
Right, absolutely.
They introduce a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of addiction, a lot of nonsense. You can just not see it.
Right. So it's very interesting, Matt, because I would just like to say, from my perspective, how I've experienced people over the years regarding that. And I'd love your take on that, because I know it would be very relevant to what we're talking about. I'd often have people coming to me as a healer, asking me to open up their third eye, right? And I'd go, well, no, I can't be doing that. Although you can do it. I know it's possible to do it. There are people out there who will do it. But for me, it's something that comes with the natural ability of developing that aspect of yourself. So it's like, really, if you're going to open up someone's third eye, and yes, because I know it has a lot to do with, obviously, the pineal as well as the pituitary gland, right? So in that way, it's about the person's natural gifts being developed. And then when you reach that certain point of being able to naturally open it, instead of forcing it open, right? Because I feel like a lot of this is forced. But if we're able to do it just naturally, that would make a difference, right?
Right. Imagine the first time you felt your stomach flip-flop when you felt weightless on an elevator or some other similar thing. You've been skydiving, Chantel, so you know what that means to have that weightless feeling.
Yeah.
Now imagine that all of a sudden get something similar to that, but a whole lot more intense. That's why you shouldn't have that third eye open, just unbidden. You have to be really prepared for that.
Wow. Okay. So when we have our third eye open, we obviously can see beyond the physical realm and the physical eyes. Then it's like the doors to the other dimensions start opening up, and then we can start seeing things in a much clearer way. I was able, and not just seeing, but also hearing. I mean, in my experience as a kid, I was able to hear the voices of the animals as well. I was able to see things that a lot of people couldn't see physically. I was able to see into people's bodies. Like when I say that, I mean like I could see blockages. If people were sick, I could see there was like attachments on their body. Are we talking about this sort of thing? I could also see my angels, right? I could see God. Not all the time, but there were definitely times I could see God, right? So are we talking about that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah. Hey, you ever hear of the game Pin the Tail on the Donkey when you're young?
Yeah.
Well, it's like you're in this cosmic game of Pin the Tail on the Donkey. You can't see because you have a blindfold on. You're trying to figure things out just by feel and by the senses you do have. Imagine if somebody came up and took the blindfold off just all of a sudden with no preparation, no anything.
Right.
You find out you're in the middle of a giant football stadium with 80,000 people surrounding you. How would you feel? Especially if you found out that you were mostly naked. You were very, very vulnerable.
Right.
I imagine it would be quite the shock.
Yeah, indeed.
Something similar here.
And especially if you see things that you're not really that aren't always that kind or aren't always that. I know working with people when they just start seeing something or even hearing something the first or the second time, it's quite a scary experience for them, right?
Right.
So what really needs to happen, I guess, is that people need to be retrained. Is that what you're saying? Would you say that people would need to be retrained in terms of slowly catch the monkey, right?
Right. It's not so much retraining, it's realizing that you become new, recreated, or replugged into that home. It's called the matrix, for lack of a better description for it. When people say that they can see these things, they can only see what those things decide to show you because they go way, way, way beyond what you think. So they're showing you what you can take.
Right.
If that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Okay, so from your experience, I think that for me has been important to understand, that and to ascertain as well, that everybody has these abilities. It's like literally like a plug has been plugged out of the wall socket, right? And kind of like you're not getting that power source or that power surge, like a hairdryer, I would imagine, right? So the hairdryer is kind of like being plugged out of the wall. Doesn't mean the hairdryer is broken when it's not working. It just needs to be replugged into its power source again. So what we really need to be doing is to be replugged back into our power source again, right?
You have to be aware that there is a power source, what the power source is in the first place. If you didn't know that to begin with, how would you know anything? Right. You never heard of electricity. You'd be trying all kinds of things to get that hairdryer to work. None of it's correct until you understand what electricity is and how to turn that on. There's a lot of danger along the way too with that. Yeah. So just think of how that would work. It's actually kind of hard to explain this sometimes.
Yeah, I know that it is. But so how would you then recommend, if you would, that we start reclaiming or reconnecting, if you will? If I think, let's say all of them here are, all of our viewers on this platform are aware that we do have a plug and we are able to plug back into a power source that's going to give us those gifts again, or renew those gifts, if you will, reconnect, if that makes sense. So
Right.
what would be the best way?
Well, the best way is to definitely plug back in with the master of the universe, the creator, the divine God. He made a way possible for us to do that through his son, Jesus, and the sacrifice that he gave for us. He took those scales off our eyes, those that wake up to be able to see what we were supposed to see in the first place. That's one of the most important ways, to look at or take first, is that step. And it's not always a religious cut and dry situation. It's something you have to do every day. It's not something you can just, it's not a magic word. You have to actively participate with that on a daily basis. There's something we call faith. What was the acronym for fear you gave me the other day?
False evidence appearing real.
And faith is forsaking all, I trust him.
Yeah.
Good acronyms to live by. Not always easy. Like, I'm sitting here right now very uncomfortably because of my back. I'll tell you some background on that, just so you guys can pray more specifically for me. I worked in the oil fields of the Bakken in North Dakota for a few years, and working as a roughneck. If you know anything about the oil fields, it's really dangerous work. It's heavy work, and I tried to stop a 175,000-pound mass with my 350-pound body. That didn't work. Didn't work out so good. And my L5S1 is destroyed for the most part. I had to have an emergency laminectomy. It goes out easily. I was paralyzed for almost 2 years in a wheelchair. So that is the challenge I have, along with everything else. PTSD is a huge one. Chantel's walked with me through some of that. It's tough. Like I said, there's lots of roadblocks. There's addiction. There's all kinds of things that have been thrown in my path. But here I am, still talking about faith, still pushing forward, still pushing ahead. So I want you guys to know that it's a battle. You have to want this battle every day, or you're not going to get it. If that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Definitely makes a lot of sense. So, wow. Let's talk about the solfeggio frequencies, the angelic frequencies, if you will, the choir of angels. How do we know what is good and what is not good? How does one, because I think there's, we know that there's so many, and I understand, obviously, there is faith and we've got to practice discernment, stuff like that. But I think so many people obviously are also maybe a little bit innocent to these things, maybe having a rough time discerning what's what in the pot. So can you talk to us about this choir of angels?
Well, it's not just one choir. There's 9 or 12, depending on who you talk to. And I believe there's a lot more than that. That's just what I was able to see. And they all have different ranks, they're different species, different functions. There are things called elementals, or the living ships, as we've talked about before. It's a world unto itself, and it's more real than here. What you see in front of you seems real to you, and it feels real to you, but this is nothing. This is, believe me, this is nothing compared to there. This is like a Lego toy set that we're playing with, with all the sophisticated things that we do here that we think we're doing. I refer back to the toilet brush, scepter, and the Burger King crown and the bath towel cape. That's kind of how they see us. We're less than children. We're very unaware of what's really happening. So, the misconception people make are angels and demons are diametrically opposed, which obviously they are. The demons are not angels. Fallen angels are angels. Think of that for a minute. Digest that for a minute. People lump that term demon into this massive overcovering arch of interpretation when you're kind of missing the point with that. You kind of have to know who your enemy is. And this is going to be an attempt to try to show you. And we're going to talk about the actual angels first. I don't like to say names because in the arcane, there's something called invocation. I don't like to invoke names. It's not because I'm afraid of them. I'm not. Fear has nothing to do with it. It's just that I know that stuff is real and it works. You have to be very careful. It'd be like if the word popcorn had magic power. I said popcorn 10 times in a row. All of a sudden your room is full of popcorn. That's kind of how that works. It's exactly. Unbidden and out of the blue. Except you invited it.
It's a good example. That it really is a good example. The popcorn, say pop, and it's kind of like what Michael Jackson and a lot of the other singers were saying. I know Michael Jackson. I know I've often heard him say that it's like, which is why also in music, and we know that Lucifer, who is God's favorite angel, so to speak, has the most beautiful singing voice. So that's why I do believe also a lot of the music industry, okay, those guys and women have the most beautiful voices. So many of them that have actually sold out, right, have the most beautiful voices. So they use music a lot to entice the hordes, right? So the choirs, let's say the song that has a choir that you repeat, right? And you repeat that enough times, you repeat that mantra enough times, it becomes like a mantra, right? So you then invoke whatever that is. And that's actually, again, spell casting, right?
Exactly. You're speaking a written word that was spelled out. You're speaking it through the crystals in your mouth. You're enhancing with those crystals. You're saying it forth. You're invoking and you're evoking and you're conjuring things. That's exactly how it works.
Wow.
So with these difference between angels and demons, it's Rephaim, the fallen Nephilim who died in the flood. And they didn't all die in the flood. Let's be clear on that. Some remained. Some people say that they reset, they started recreating Nephilim. I believe some of them survived that flood. The Rephaim are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim from before the flood, in all their different forms and phases. Humans called them demigods back then when they were alive, because they could live far longer than we could. I believe that 120-year curse wasn't just for regular humans, it was for them. So they couldn't live for 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, 20,000 years. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. I want to just make sure I've got this right here. So maybe you can just work with me on this for a moment. So when we look at the fallen angels, right? The fallen angels, and we've also had this conversation before. So they obviously fell, and they're super powerful because they brought God's original, whatever it was, music, astrology, astronomy, whatever. They have whatever they learned in heaven direct from God is what they brought with them. So that's what makes them so intelligent, makes them so good at what they do, right? So just because someone has gifts like that, it doesn't mean it's necessarily good, right? Because we often think, well, this person is such a good psychic or such a good numerologist or such a good this or whatever it might be. Very often that information that they're using is not the way it's intended to be used originally, right? So they've fallen with a lot of very critical or very amazing information. But then they captured semen from males. So I would have thought that was humans. But what you're telling me, it wasn't necessarily humans. It could be from any male, whether it was animal or whatever. So they literally took the semen from the male because they don't have bodies, right? And then they played around with that DNA. And then they, in fact, would have implanted that in the females, the women, right? And then that offspring is the Nephilim. So the Nephilim are the offspring of the fallen angels, right? And then those of them who died in the flood, and I know that you're saying there were still quite a few that were left behind, sure. And I'm talking more about the disembodied spirits of those that died in the flood, right? Were then the Rephaim, right? So it's the Nephilim and then the Rephaim. And then basically, so it's the Rephaim and the demons, or the demons would be the same thing. So a lot of people are calling demons, but in fact it's Rephaim, right? And they would then need to be, in order for them to manifest, they would need a body of a human, an animal, or some type of object like a statue, for example, in which and the grays. Like, so now when we're looking at the ETs, like these cute little gray things, right? That's actually an avatar that these guys have used with their technology, like the homunculus, right? Have been
Exactly.
yeah. So they've created this, and it's really a body that has no reproductive system. It's kind of like expendable. So then these disembodied spirits of the Rephaim would then go into the ETs and an animal. And I know we've spoken about this before in previous shows where you've spoken about where these things were traded. They wanted the body of an animal for this and blah, blah, blah. So a body of a human, an animal, or an object, and like literally the homunculus, which is what they've created, these little ETs, the extraterrestrials. So they're not really something that comes out of a cute or necessarily an alternate world, but it's really something that these angels, the fallen angels and the Nephilim, etc., have created so that they have a host for their chaotic spirits that are running around the earth, right? Is that right? Have I got it
That's
pretty
pretty
much?
much in a nutshell. That's how that kind of works. Yes, it's hard to know where they got this original genetic material from because it kind of implies that there was creation here before that happened, and that is its own rabbit trail by itself. I've always known the Rephaim as shades. I never did call them Rephaim until recently. And you hear that with was it Saul that tried to summon from the witch of Endor? He tried to summon Samuel to give him advice. What showed up was Samuel's shade from Abraham's bosom, or from Sheol, or from hell, if you want to call it that. His shade showed up, his actual shade, so his disembodied soul form showed up. That's what a shade is. Now, these Rephaim don't have a place in heaven. They don't go back to God. They're angelic spirits, or halfways anyway. So they go to the second heaven, or the air. This brings up one of the angelic choirs called the powers. The fallen ones come from all choirs. A good lot of them come from the powers. That's like third sphere.
Wow.
Hold on just a minute here. I'll be right back.
Wow. I mean, that's super intense, actually. So the way I'm understanding this is that it's not, there's different levels, right? And there's different divisions, if you will. I'm trying to like put it in my mind where I can quite sort of conceive it, sort of different realms, different divisions, different levels of these different disembodied spirits of sorts. I mean, I think this is actually quite amazing. I think, Jessica, what you're saying there is no hell. I think there might be different levels of where these things actually hang out. And I know what Caleb was actually saying earlier, not today necessarily, but in previous shows, like Hell, Gleitner, I can't remember the name of the other one. It's like really the realms of chaos, and these things are actually hanging out there waiting for these bodies so they can reincarnate again, basically. So I'm just waiting for Caleb. I know he's probably seeing his sorting his dogs right now. And I'm just going to actually check what, Caleb, where did you learn this? Just experience or training? Lexi, Abby, if you go back to the beginning of Caleb's shows, he actually explains. He was pretty much in the arcane. He studied all the levels. He studied all the levels of magic, basically. He was taken into the system as a gateway kid at the age of 5. He was in the Wild Hunt, studied the arcane. He was in the military as well. So basically, he has 35 years of personal experience around this stuff. So he has a lot of knowledge around that. But what he often will tell you is that he doesn't like to give too much information about certain things all at the same time, because there are a lot of people out there that will use some of the information in a way that he doesn't really want them to. So he gives it to us in a way that we can understand it, type thing.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just had to go deal with something.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I know that you've got your wolves. And interesting, yeah, a question I wanted to ask you, Caleb, as well. Who are the Greekos, the Pleiadians? So I know that the Pleiadians, oopsie, sorry, I didn't mean to put that up there. The Pleiadians are often referred to as the Greys. The dark side of the Pleiadians are the Greys. I mean, what do you say about that?
Well, that's where we kind of get into the Elohim, which is a different subject altogether than this, but it's pretty closely related.
Okay, well then we'll do that on another day. Then, if it's not directly related to this,
what I can say about it is that the Greys, like I said, they're like the movie Avatar. Other beings have stepped into those bodies to control them. Those other beings are what I've mentioned it before, called the Dominion, or the elves. If you think about it, elves, Elohim, think about that for a minute. Yeah. Plug that together. And we'll have to talk about that some other time.
Yeah, the Elohim. Because aren't there like 7 Elohim, right? Aren't there like 7 Elohim that began?
you can look at it that way if you want to. It's a multi-layered subject. So
Okay.
when you first get introduced to the elves, it's a very different reality than you can think. And they as a whole race fell. So they made a decision to fall, an informed decision, which means it was a deliberate sin.
Wow. Why was that?
I'm not sure. If I was in that position, I don't know that I'd make that choice. I know I wouldn't. But then how can I say that? Because I have plenty of times in my life made informed decisions to do dumb things. We all have. It's called the sin nature. So.
Wow.
But the elves call themselves the Dominion. So there's another reference to angelic choirs, dominions, powers. You can see how that ties together.
Yeah. What are the elementals? Or is that now obviously like the nature spirits or what?
Right. That's like the gardener, let's say.
Yeah.
The gardener doesn't necessarily like you or dislike you, but he's doing his job. And you can sway him one way or the other.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Totally. So if somebody, let's say you might be working with a friendly tree sprite today, but if someone else has more power over him, they could easily. So they're very fickle, in other words. Is that what you're saying? They're fickle.
Well, as fickle as the light bulb. I mean, it's really that simple.
Yeah.
Light bulb either works or it doesn't, depending on the power you put into it, or if it's still all together.
Right. Right.
You can also fix a light bulb to smoke meth or crack out of it. So think of that too.
Wow.
The light bulb by itself is not evil, but it can be used for good intention or it can be used for bad. That on a basic level, that's what it boils down to the most, is how it's used. It's like the living ships. I mean, the living ships weren't necessarily evil, but they definitely interact and function with the seraphim and the cherubim. And in fact, they don't function apart from them. So they kind of didn't really have a choice, I don't think. When they developed their own consciousness, then they had a choice, just like we do. And they still chose bad. They still chose evil. That's just my thought on it anyway, from what I saw.
Wow.
And I just saw, is there a connection between parasites and demons? Absolutely. God did not create parasites. That's genetic mutation for sure. And it's also taking elementals and twisting them for ill gain or for bad problems or for bad reasons. Some of them are nanotechnology that we see as biological entities, because they're not sophisticated enough to see where they came from first. At least not yet, anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Wow. There's so much. But so since like really, if we look at Earth, it's a planet of duality, right? So there would surely be, to everything that there's a dual force. So where there's the good there would be the negative there. So that negative polarity, right? So what would be, let's say, on the positive, like if we're looking at the elementals, for example, what would be on the positive of that?
Well, it's all linear lines of flowing power one way or another. It's up or down. I mean, it's kind of pretty clearly defined in the way they describe things, as above, so below. if you think of it, it's just a recreation or them stealing what's above so they can still have it below, when they could have just went in the right direction and kept what they had in the first place. Think about that for a minute. If that makes any kind of sense at all.
Yeah, it does make sense to me. But, I also believe that, I mean, there has to be a divine reason, right? I like to think like this. There has to be a divine reason why there's a negative polarity to all of these things at the same time. Isn't that part of what actually evolves us? Isn't that what evolves our consciousness at the same time? Where we now, where we also faced with these challenges, right? It's the contrast really of that all good, or that all flowing, or that all blissful, if you want to look at it like that, right? So when there's the opposite polarity of that, or the negative polarity, so to speak, wouldn't that be what really enables us to grow through these experiences and really, as I say, evolve our consciousness?
Right. Somebody mentioned about element 115. That, and I'll say this as clearly as I can, that is directly related to soul gem technology and how they use soul gems. Because the Rephaim and the fallen angels don't have access to God's spirit anymore, they have to use something like that as a stand-in, as a connector between the physical and the spiritual. That's what God's spirit does for us. It connects us to God, between the physical and the spiritual. So that's what soul gems do too. And like I told you once before, when we talked about soul gems, we could talk for months on that and how it works. But that's a direct correlation. They found that ship on an archaeological dig. Well, think of what I've been telling you when we found the ships that we found. Not the first ship out there that's ever been found. They're all very ancient. It's interesting that people even know that.
I think that's very incredible, because it's like really what we're seeing here again, and that's obviously like the again, the fallen angel technology, right? They've really taken God's gifts, or God's purest creations, if you will, and they've completely corrupted it. It's like they've turned it into something so disgusting in so many ways, right? That it really is. It's almost like they've gone to extreme lengths to see just how they can corrupt God's creation, right?
Right, they're trying to get even with God, to put it simply.
Like the jealous son.
Right.
The son who wants to be as good as daddy-o, and he just can't ever be as great as his father is, or so he thinks anyway. So he's now got to try and outdo his father. Well, just something, Nada is asking, Caleb, will you speak about quantum time crystals? Is there, I mean, I know that's kind of like getting a little bit off topic here. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Are we still on topic?
It all relates together at some point, so sure.
Okay.
Like I've told you plenty of times, your body is full of rare earth elements of all different types and sorts: metals, liquids, solids, fluids. The difference between fluids and liquids are its composition and what's in it. This is all alchemy. And mostly what we have, some of the most important things that are in our body are crystals. And quantum time crystals would be beryllium. That's one of the main ones in your brain. And if you've ever gotten high, stoned, drunk, whatever, they interact with that beryllium using those substances to produce a false sense of time shift. That's how they do that.
Wow.
I'm not sure the exact chemicals that they use every time, but I know that it interacts with the beryllium that's in your brain.
Wow.
Like I said, this goes deep, and I could talk a whole lot more about alchemy. Like I said, we've only scratched the surface on some of this stuff altogether.
We will get there. We will get to the whole alchemy, because I know that you've part of your expertise, experience is that of the alchemist.
Right.
So, interesting question here from Eli Love as well. Interesting. Is Tourette's syndrome caused by demons? Tourette's syndrome has got to be one of the funniest. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's one of the funniest things I've heard.
If you have something that besets you, it's probably a chemical reaction to something else. And those nanobot parasites are giving off chemicals all the time that interact with your body and cause problems like that. Same with, let's say, Alzheimer's, say, aging. There's all kinds of things that interact with your body and cause these problems. Didn't come from God, that's for sure.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm thinking of what was that movie? The two Irish brothers, something saints, whatever. Anyway, there's an old man in there that always said "ass" just all of a sudden. I don't think God would want you to be saying that all
the time. I'm sorry, I can't help laughing at that. It's the funniest.
I'm not making fun, but what I'm saying is God's not going to do something like that. He's not Boondock Saints. That's the name. So a guy just all of a sudden belts that out. Ass. In front of a bunch of nuns.
And worse, not just ass, okay? There's like seriously so much worse than ass that comes out of those people's mouths. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, it just makes sense. Yeah, so Kimberly saying Parkinson's as well. Yeah, so it's very, very interesting to understand these things. Wow. Okay.
Right. So the concept of that time shift crystals, they can definitely do that because you can get into a fog where they entrap you. Say someone captured your soul and you didn't know it, and you feel entrapped in something. That's why it feels like almost no time has gone by for you, and maybe 10 years went by and you didn't know it. It doesn't seem like 10 years went by, so that's how they're able to do that. Try to capture your soul when you're the strongest that you can be.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. I'm also just interested here, looking at Jay's comment here. The Bible talks about worms infesting the bodies of the people who didn't listen to God when he said to take what you need for food, but they didn't listen, were greedy and fell ill. What is your comment on that?
Well, that's the very picture of disobedience when he said, take what you need and not keep more, because I think you're talking about the manna. The manna not only rotted, but it turned foul in the body too. They tried to take more. So he gives you, it's like that song called The Sparrows. I don't know if you guys have listened to that song. Sparrows don't worry about tomorrow. They have enough on their plate for today. They don't know where their next meal's coming from. God always takes care of them. I've never seen a sparrow with a tin can in its hand and a sign saying homeless.
Exactly.
They're always taken care of.
But I think that's every, if we look at nature as well, I mean, I look at the wild animals here, like you look at a lion. Lions only hunt when they're hungry. I mean, you'll often see at the watering hole, you'll have lions and buck and stuff drinking at the same time sometimes, because the lion will only hunt when it's hungry, right? It doesn't go and hunt 17 buck all at the same time and dry them, because for 3 months from now, right? Very interesting that. So, and it's really about trusting that we are being provided for. It's about trusting that there's enough. It's about trusting that God will always provide. So again, that comes with trust and faith, right? So when you have that thing like greed, it really is a fear of not having. If we look at that in its opposite polarity, people are greedy when they fear they're not going to have enough. And of course, that greed can become completely over the top. It can take on a whole new level. What do you say about that?
Yeah, that's according to the Catholics, one of the 7 deadly sins is greed. I think any sin's deadly. If you're trying to stand in the presence of a holy God, most people don't understand what that even means. When he decides to show you something of himself, he definitely is shielding most of himself from you. You just burn to a crisp instantly. You couldn't stand in that radiance. Same with these angels. Even these demons can do that too, because they stood in that light of eternity for who knows how long. How long is eternity? You have to ask those questions too. If that makes any sense to you.
How long is eternity? I'm going to ask you that question.
It's forever.
How long is forever? Come. Spit it out. Spit it out.
Having stepped out of the time stream more than a few times, you have plenty of time to accomplish a lot of things. It's coming back to the time stream that's difficult. You basically take back physical ailment, illness, addiction, problems, sins, worries, your body breaks, and you're subject to death here. Outside of the time stream, you are not.
Right.
That's very heretical to some people to hear that. And it's not easy to understand unless you've done it yourself. It is possible, just not for most people whom God has not gifted that to. In the arcane, using evil ways, you can definitely try it and actually accomplish it. I'm talking about using soul magic. So
Yeah, absolutely.
hear a lot about Solomonic magic and this and that. That's what this world seems to be concerned with. I studied Enochian magic, which is a little different than Solomonic.
What is Enochian magic?
It's the next level of Solomonic magic.
Right. We're going to get there, right? Or
Yep.
are you going to give us some juicy tidbits?
You've heard
I'm not
many
being
times.
sweeter.
Heard many times about Logaeth,
Yeah.
the language of heaven, and it's what the tapestry of reality is made with is Logaeth.
Right.
You'll have to watch that video with the lasers.
Yeah.
If you have, it's elusive truth to put that out there. So, obviously, they use DMT to make some of that happen, but even without DMT, you can still see it if you look, if you're able to see. That's one of the tests to get into the American college.
Are you talking about DMT as in that the hallucinogenic?
Yep.
So is that why people do stuff like you're going to often find, like, let's say people do ayahuasca? What's your take on things like ayahuasca, which is pretty much the same as DMT, right? Or it's very similar anyway. And stuff like peyote cactus, San Pedro, stuff like that. What's your take on that? Magic mushrooms. A lot of people use that.
Talk about instant activation of your third eye.
Right. So are you saying that's a good thing or not?
Well, it goes back to what I said about not being ready.
Right.
It is a high, so it's not being sober. It's not being in your right mind. So you're easy to influence then. Easy to make you make bad decisions.
Right. And I see what Jay is saying. Yeah, DMT is a natural chemical in our body, and I know that, which is pretty much why I'm asking. But obviously, also we know we've been dumbed down, right, in many ways, and the pineal, etc., is being calcified by the foods we've been given, stress in life, literally just a disconnection from God in general. Would you say, though, that let's say if somebody had to go there and maybe take something like that with the right intention? Because I will tell you this, I've done ayahuasca once, and I did that many years ago, and I'm going to probably go back to at least a decade, more than a decade ago. And I'll never forget, I didn't have one of these crazy way out my body. I did not do that. I always like to stay in my body. I'm very conscious of staying in my body, but what I do is I move into the different layers of my cells, because I believe God lives within me and within the cellular structure of my physical being.
Yes, hold on.
Okay. So I will never forget it at the time that when I was doing that, it became very clear to me that I only ever had to do ayahuasca once, because something like ayahuasca is the living vine. It's the living plant, right? And it's the feminine plant. So once you've done it, it stays within your system, and it awakens whatever it needs to awaken within you. And you can take it from there as to move in the direction that you need to. But it's like it was like more like a catalyst to activate what was already in me. And that's the way I saw ayahuasca. But I've also seen people who do it once a month for like, I don't know how many years, but I've also seen people go crazy using that stuff too often. So again, I'm just going to say with stuff like that, yeah, I like what you're saying, Nada. Serb is a new high. I totally agree with that. And Jay, I just want to say as well here, sorry, the comments are coming, so I'm missing a lot of them, and I'm hoping not to. People use DMT external to try and reconnect. Yes, they do, and that's what I'm saying. I think if you use stuff like that in a single time, that for me was very clear to me when I did ayahuasca many years ago. That I only ever needed to use it once, because once that was reawakened in me, it was up to me to keep the plant alive. It's like the seed was planted. It's like a seed, the way I see that. You awoke it, it's been awoken in you, and now it starts growing, because it's known as the vine plant, the feminine plant. So she started growing, and it's up to me to keep her nurtured and nourished so that she could continue to grow and continue to give me information, or so to speak, right? And I also know, but I have to tell you, I've worked with a lot of people taking hard drugs, like stuff like cocaine and all sorts of stuff like that. I've observed people have incredible spiritual connections on hard drugs as well. And again, but I think anything like an addiction, the minute you start, whether it's to hard drugs, whether it's to opiates, whether it's to something like ayahuasca, which is supposedly the good thing, but any addiction is not a good thing. I don't know, Caleb, I don't know if you've heard anything I've said there. I've been talking to myself. Yeah. Again,
I've heard.
thanks. As long as you heard. Okay, so what's your take on that?
I'd say that most people are probably a quarter awake anyway. When they take substances or anything else, it makes them about half awake. Well, if you're half awake, how easy are you to influence?
Yeah.
That's a good way
Like
to see
lucid
it.
dreaming.
Right.
Isn't that a bit like lucid dreaming? Because when you're doing lucid dreaming, you could be very much under the influence of something else as well, right?
Right. You were talking about intention. I intended to go down to the bank with a handgun and withdraw some money. Some people call that robbery. I just call it a withdrawal.
Okay, what's your intention though? Like, right?
Right. One man's robbery is another man's withdrawal.
It's true.
It's actually kind of a sick way to look at it, but that is absolutely the truth.
Wow.
So to go into that unprepared, it's kind of like before the sacrifice of Jesus, how they had to come to God. Sometimes there's these ways. And who's to know that they're actually talking to God? Like I said, pin the tail on the donkey, you're in the middle of an 80,000 person stadium. They're all watching you, but you can't see them. Who has the advantage there? You or them?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I think really at the end of the day, it's still, I think it's still best just to, when you have that connection with God, when you reconnect spiritually, you will be awoken by God in the way that you need to be at the time that you need to be. And, there are things like, I agree, it's like, I don't think it's very often that you just have this boof, this mind explosion overnight, and you go from being completely dumbed down to this enlightened being within like an hour or a minute or whatever. I think for most of us, it's a process. We have to change the way we do things. We have to change probably the way we eat. Food is our medicine in many ways because food supports the body, right? So in order to do these things, you need a healthy body. You need a healthy mind. You need to be cleanliness is godliness. So it's like purifying the spirit, purifying the being, right? Where you can hear the true voice of God. So then you do know that it's God's voice because you won't have a doubt then. God will let you know that you're hearing God's voice.
Colleen just said something important about DMT, DM, and cough syrup. When I was a boy, 40 years ago, there was a hobby drug called Robitussin. They called it Robo. You take a 8-ounce bottle of Robitussin and drink the entire thing, and you would go into the craziest psychedelic trip outs you can imagine for about 12 hours straight. You'd see angels, you'd see the spirit world for sure. It was a terrifying experience. I did that one time, and that's all I needed to not ever want to do it again.
I kid you not, so did I at school. Everyone was drinking cough mixture. I remember there was a craze where when I was at school, everyone was drinking cough mixture or a certain type of cough mixture to get high or drunk or whatever it was they were doing. And one of my friends dared me to drink the cough mixture once, and I did. I was just trying to be badass. I was awake for like 3 days. I kid you not. I could not sleep. I was high as anything. I was seeing things. I was experiencing things. I was hearing things. I sat down stairs in the prep room, the homework room at the hostel. I was at boarding school. I just wrote. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. I wrote like 3 hardcover books full of stuff I was just writing. It was actually, now that you mention it, I actually forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me of that experience. Wow. Makes sense. Wow.
Slender
Gosh.
Man comes from that too. I just put that in the comments.
What, sorry?
Slender Man.
What? Yeah, what's that?
You have to look that up. It's something that teens have seen a lot. It started with the robo people.
Wow, this is very interesting. Anyway, gosh.
So to get back to the subject matter at hand,
Yeah,
the Rephaim are the dead Nephilim. They're not just demons. It's not just a spirit.
right.
They do have ranks and structures.
So demons and Rephaim are the same thing.
Well, if you say it under a general title, yes, they're the same thing. It pays
They're
to know
just
your enemy.
they're embodying different, they don't always embody the same body. So they'll take possibly a human body. Is that a dead human body, by the way? Or could it be I mean, are we talking about some of these bodies that you're talking about in these mental
You just
institutions?
open another rabbit hole.
Always, you know me, I'm going to open tab.
Dead bodies that are inhabited or animated again are called revenants or drogers.
Spell that for me, please.
I'll put it in the comments.
Okay. Drogers.
Or revenants. Sorry, type slowly here.
It's all good.
It's revenants with an N. I missed an N there.
Now, how long can a dead body inhabit a demonic spirit or a Raphaim?
All the way down to the skeleton.
Okay, sorry, writing it down there.
Think of Thing from the Addams Family, just the one hand.
Right. Wow.
So Joger or what you would call zombies. They're just inhabited by Rephaim. Powerful Rephaim, but still Rephaim.
And how long can they keep that body alive? How long can it be active?
As long as the soul magic works.
Any specific length of time maximum?
Up to years.
Wow. Is that what they call a walk-in?
I'm not sure what that is.
We hear of these stories that sometimes people die and then another spirit inhabits that body. So let's say there's nothing necessarily too wrong with the body, but sometimes I've heard about that a lot. They're called walk-ins. So then you'd have a spirit that doesn't want to go through, or a soul that doesn't want to go through the whole baby process or whatever. They will then inhabit a body that is maybe fresh, and maybe the person had a heart attack or whatever. It's not, the body's not damaged, right? But they can then take over that body. And then it's like they'll go and they'll live with these families, but it's like the spirit knows who it is in this body, but it has to learn what this body was before. Do you know what I'm saying? So it would have to get to know the family and stuff like that again. I don't know if that's the same thing as a walk-in then.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, I would say. There's no jokers because they're underground. See them a lot in those caves and tunnels. Yes, Joger are from Scandinavian folklore. That was my first area of study. I was an Odinist pagan. That's where I got into the arcane from.
An Odinist what?
Odinist pagan.
Pagan.
Very steeped in Icelandic witchcraft, for sure. Studied the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda. That's where I learned the Havamal. So I began to speak runic.
Very interesting. Well, we'll I know that's a different part of what we're going to be getting into one of these days as well.
Right.
Wow. Well, I think we kind of hitting the end of our time here. Is there anything you want to maybe just any end off with for today? And I know we're going to be having section 2 tomorrow night about this stuff as well, so there'll be a continuation tomorrow night. But is there anything you'd just like to maybe end off with?
Once again, I feel like we just barely touched on anything here. I'm not trying to hold anything back from you. I'm just trying to give it to you in bite-sized pieces like people want, with clarity and some kind of understanding, or pointing it out anyway. Most people have never heard of any of this kind of stuff, so it's just shocking to me because I've known this my entire life.
This is a comment from Duke. Caleb, do you know is it the Ura Linda book?
I probably do. It's one of the grimoires. Lots of grimoires. There's about 380 grimoires out there.
Right.
I had all of them in my library at one point.
Wow.
It was through the Icelandic witchcraft that I started to learn about Logaeth. So we can get into the colors of magic and the 9 magics themselves.
Yeah. I think we'll be getting there soon, right?
Yeah.
Caleb,
Just looking at some of the comments.
Are you quiet or are you squeaking me? I haven't been squeaked tonight. That's quite a miracle.
No squeak. I'm just reading the comments.
Lovely. Okay. Well, I don't know. The squeaky sound. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Guys and gals, we're going to call it a day for today. And we shall see you back tomorrow, Sunday. It'll be either. Thank you, Grace and Mercy. You're so lovely. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow back either, I don't know, 7 or 8 o'clock our time. Just watch the show. Just watch the channel. We'll generally put the show up about a couple of hours before, just depending on the time. We'll either have it at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. my time. That's GMT +2, as you all know by now. So in the meantime, I don't know, Caleb, is there something you'd like to end off with just or before you end off for us in prayer?
Never really heard of walk-ins before. Maybe I called them something different, but that would have to do with soul magic for sure. Somebody taking over somebody's body.
Yeah.
I never heard about people dying to do that other than the joggers. And I have heard of the Kensington Heights zombies in Philadelphia. You have to look that up. Some pretty scary thing, actually. You can see those spirits coming through. It's really actually not fun to watch if you ever see it. So
Kensington Heights, sorry, just give me that again.
Kensington Heights zombies. Look it up on YouTube once.
I've got lots of homework to do today. I feel like I'm back at school. Grandma's back at school. Thanks.
Well, let's pray then.
Yeah.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for revelation. I thank you for peace and mercy. And I again ask for healing for myself, freedom for everybody around here that's on this show, and what travails them, what hurts them. Thank you for life and love. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for grace. Thank you for everything you do for us, for another chance to love you again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Yay. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us again today, this evening. For me, it's 9:21 p.m. Yeah. And wherever you are in the world, I think it must be maybe lunchtime for you or morning, whatever. Take good care of yourself. See, I've got to speak. What can I say? The show would not be the show without me being squeaked, right?
Have a good day, folks.
Yeah, God bless you all. Take good care of you. Yeah. And I wish you tons of health, wealth, and lots of abundance. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye. Well, hello, everybody. And it is Happy Tuesday. And I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far and have had a wonderful weekend. Yeah, we had a long weekend, but I don't even know when long weekends are anymore. So I'm very happy to have back with me Lynn Monet. Lynn, we've missed each other the last few weeks, so welcome back and so good to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's so good to be back. I've missed you, that is for sure. A lot has happened, just crazy things, wonderful crazy things too. So that's good. But I was really looking forward to being back on here with you and all of your lovely family of people that come in. And everybody, don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and hit the notification bell for those algorithms.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good to see you. And hello, everybody. Jojo, Carol, Lisa, Cosmic Diana, Christy, all the usual suspects. Good to see you guys. Nice to have you in the chat as usual. Excuse me. And hello, Danny. Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
So, yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's really cool. I think, at the moment as well, this is really a time where the whole planet is waking up to the fact that we are not alone. I mean, from my personal perspective, since when I was born, I knew Earth was not the only planet or species. Humans weren't the only species around. But of course, you kind of, if you talk about that, you're seen as being a little bit crazy, right? So I think what's happening now, more and more people are speaking about the elemental realms, these portals that are opening up, entities coming in. I know if you guys watch my show with Cryptid Huntress as well, and of course Caleb Jade, who's himself come across these things several times, and people like you, Lynn, who's naturally gifted as well and has the ability to see beyond the physical realm, and then obviously have encountered creatures. I don't know what else to call them. Elementals, fae, as well in your experiences. So yeah, well, let's talk about some of that tonight. I know you've also, if you guys have watched our previous interviews with Lynn, she's an ex-psych nurse and has seen lots of dodgy things happen in these psych wards with these entities and things that are attaching themselves to people. If you've watched Jerry Marzinski, and in fact, that's where I know Lynn from, is through Jerry Marzinski, who also understands that and, has come, shedding a lot of light on these topics right now. So it's good to know that we are not alone, that these things are entering our realm at the rate of knots right now. And I think it's important that we can be prepared, so if we see strange things or what have you, we understand that this is kind of like what's happening. I think the biggest thing is the fear porn that goes around this. And this is never about fear porn. But I do think the biggest thing that creates the human frenzy is the fear porn that goes around this. So, it's really just about trying to take out the fear. Yes. Not everything is bad or evil. There's lots of other little creatures that live amongst us that are actually good as well.
Yes, right? They are. Yep. As you had mentioned, the fear porn, I would like to just make mention the fear porn is being created on purpose because of the way that energetically, not only what we verbalize, but what we metabolize into our brains and send out as thought. So with this fear porn, the more that you think about it and the more that you talk about it, it goes back out into the universe and creates it. So it's very, very important that you be very selective about what you're watching on television, including horror movies, because, everything's about hauntings and horror movies and, things like that, or even what you're reading for that matter. If you, type thing, you've got to be responsible with the way that you handle it, for lack of a better word.
Right.
But
spellcasting, because thoughts, words, reading, anything like that, basically, when you put it out there, you're creating that. And if it's not done in a positive way, it's sort of that, the words, spelling, spellcasting.
That's true. Yeah. Anything that rattles in your brain is definitely coming out. Speaking of books, I want to just derail for just a minute. I have this amazing book right here. You all need to buy this book. Let me tell you about how wonderful this book is. This book is written by this lovely lady right here doing this show. She's going to be my first featured author on my website when I get it fixed so that I can do that. But what I want to say about this book, because it does talk about, even elemental things in here. As a matter of fact, this was written for children, but I'm going to tell you, if you're 100 years old, this is an excellent book because there are so many things in the way that Chantel presents it that for one thing, it's engaging. For another thing, there are so many things that even, people that are seasoned look through and they're like, wow, I didn't know that, or really, or that makes sense. And it's a 101 class advanced mixed with some advanced things. So really, I know that this is written as a children's book, but this is an excellent book for any age. I have read it. I have enjoyed it. I'm actually going to be rereading some parts of it because I'm trying to get my daughter, who is gifted, but is kind of afraid of her gifts, but I'm trying to encourage her to read this too. So everybody, this is the book. It's Chantel's book. I got my copy. Y'all need to get yours. I don't want you to be jealous that I got mine first, but if you have one too, then we're all the same. So anyway.
You're lovely. Thank you.
Anyway, you're welcome. Anyway, what you had mentioned about elementals, recently I've had some things occur that have been usual and unusual. When my sister passed away, I inherited her house, and going into her house, there was a strange kind of energy about the house. I remember being in her house and seeing spirits through, which is commonplace for me anyway. But these spirits were a little bit different in the sense that they were mimicking my father in his ugly golf pants on the other side, which I'm like, Dad, why would you be wearing those ugly golf pants on the other side? But it turned out that it wasn't his spirit. It was something mimicking him, according to a picture. And I think that you all have heard me mention before about a rock that my sister inadvertently picked up. It was a heart-shaped rock. When you lay it down, it looks like a sleeping rabbit. The way that there's like an eye with eyelashes, and it's beautiful. But anyway, she had inadvertently picked it up and brought it into her house. Lessons being learned that, you don't just go picking up rocks because they might belong to somebody. So, and we don't usually, consider those sorts of things. But what had happened is when I inherited her house, I figured that there was a ghost in the house. So when my son came up, we decided to smudge the house, do a fire component to clear everything out. Plus my sister had been sick a long time, so we kind of wanted to neutralize that energy as well. And there was this one entity that was under 3 feet tall that basically was challenging us, because it was like, after we finished everything, that spirit was still there. And it was kind of like, is that the best you've got? So he was unaffected by any of the traditional means that we used to clear the house and bless the house. He had a foul name for me. He would say it very quickly 3 times, and it has to do with the middle finger and what that means. And he would call me that very, very quickly. And he would also call me the B word and a couple of other choice things, because he was angry. He was angry that we were there. He was angry that, for many, many reasons. And come to find out, I finally reached out to some friends of mine that do remote viewing. One was in Florida, one was in South Carolina, the house was in Louisiana, which are states very, very far apart. And I had 2 of them because I wanted to get that second opinion, and everything was validated. So they saw this elemental that was coming up from the ground. He lived underneath the house, and he lived on the property of the house, that was coming up through a stairwell into the 3rd bedroom. And we couldn't figure out, why he was coming in particularly to that 3rd bedroom. My son and I were upstairs standing in the hallway of that area. So there were all 3 bedrooms were upstairs. My son was standing in the master bedroom doorway. I was standing in the 2nd bathroom. And all of a sudden, we see this little thing under 3 feet tall, probably about 2 3/4 feet tall, walk past me, and then past my son into the master bedroom doorway. I didn't say anything, but all of a sudden my son says to me, he says, "Mom, did you just see Hogwarts go by?" And I remember thinking, as I'm watching, literally, I'm watching this little thing pass me, and I'm thinking, that thing looks just like the banker on Harry Potter. One of those little banker things with the nose and the blocky head.
I'd love to know what was going on. I'd love to know what was going on in your kid's head.
Yeah, exactly. But he saw it, and he's the one that spoke up and said it. Did you see Hogwarts go by? And it was funny because I was just thinking that. So it comes back out again, and it crosses us back into that 3rd bedroom. And then it comes out one more time. This time when it came out, it left a misted portal in the hallway. And there were faces of spirits, kind of like in a wreath shape of disembodied souls. And I misunderstood, and I assumed that he had collected those for his entertainment. To back up a little bit, my half-sister, who was a full sister to me, came and slept in my sister's room. She was helping me sort things because everything happened so fast. The death was unexpected. But she came to help me sort things, and she was sleeping in my sister's room. And one night I overhear her praying and singing hymns. And I asked her the next morning, I said, "Were you okay last night?" And she said, she says, "I opened my eyes at one point, and there was this wreath of faces circled around, floating over me, and I could sense this energy in the room." She says, "And I didn't know what it was. So I started praying," she said, "and it didn't leave. It took it about an hour for it to finally leave. Well, lo and behold, the Fae was standing next to the bed with his, I called them balloons of these spirit faces that he had. And all that she could see, because he was so short, was the wreath of faces over her, which scared her, of course. So that was validated then when I also saw the wreath in the hallway in that portal as he came through for the third time. And I'm like, okay, there's something else here besides spirits. Now, I had never had exposure to elementals. That was not my forte. I was always the ghosty thing, the attachments on people with different issues type thing. And so I got a quick 101 class. But so there were some other things that had occurred, if you want me to go ahead and continue with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Please interject if you need to. I don't want to take.
I just think I think it's very interesting, when we look at rocks, especially because rocks are the most ancient thing,
Yes.
not element, earth, right, on the earth. And the rocks are sort of equivalent to the stones, and the rocks or stones are equivalent of the earth, what bones are in the body, right? So they carry, it might look dead and very dense, but, we must remember everything holds a frequency and a vibration.
Yes, it does.
So those rocks have been around throughout the ages. They carry so much knowledge just in their vibration. They've seen everything. They know everything. So it wouldn't surprise me that something about that rock for him was a memory, maybe, that it harnessed, something like that. It would be like, I guess, a crystal would be for other people, because really, if you think about it, crystals form after millions of years with the sun shining on them, right? So eventually they then become light as well.
Yes.
They used to be rocks, right?
That's true.
So it would make a lot of sense to me that there was something about the rock that obviously he was important for him.
It was his
precious. That's right, Michelle. I like that. All geology is biology. Absolutely true. Because when you're looking at how, the elements of the earth and how the earth works, and then you compare the elements and how your body works, it's all the same.
That's so true.
All the same.
Everything is energy, and you are on the right track, because that rock did.
And nature.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. But you were on the right track, because the rock did turn out to be his precious. When the people came into remote view, they told me that there was something in particular in that upstairs bedroom that he was coming for. And it hit me in that moment that I knew what it was, because a couple of days prior, I was in that room and I found this ugly rock, very nondescript, just brown and gray, nothing fancy about it. It was kind of shaped like a heart. And I thought to myself, I was going to throw it away. Because I thought, why on earth would my sister have, she collected crystals, but there was nothing unique other than it was kind of shaped like a heart until I touched it. When I touched it, the energy raced up my arm and actually made my teeth hurt, like that fast. And I immediately put it down and I'm like, whoa, there's something about this rock. I don't want to do that again. I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to leave it where it is for now. And I'll work around the papers and things that I'm going through. And I left it there. Well, when the people came in and mentioned, did the remote viewing and told me about that, and I realized that it was the rock, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that rock. It has to be that rock that I picked up and energetically had that experience with. It was almost shocking. It was almost hot. It was just very strange energy.
That's very interesting, because again, when we listen to what Caleb Jade talks about, what they do in the arcane is they use crystals, certain crystals, which they call soul gems. Now, again, this is not all crystals, everybody, only certain crystals. Crystals are from God. Everything from the earth is from God. It's how the nefarious Lucies have used that to their benefit. So what they do is they call them soul gems, and they literally capture souls and they contain them within the crystal. And that's why when you're watching a lot of these magic movies and stuff like the Merlins and stuff, they're telling you right there all the time what they're doing all the time. You know, when you're looking again, I go back to when Caleb was talking us through the 9 levels of magic. They're using all of that stuff in these movies, right? And in there, they're talking about, you see the crystal, when someone important is born, that crystal explodes and it breaks open. He told us about the time that when he was 9 years old, his soul was captured in a soul gem. And he got it back only recently. And there was quite a fight to get it back, but that crystal had to be kind of smashed. So now what I'm saying with the rocks, it makes a lot of sense because, and I want to just tell you, and again, I want to just show you, excuse me while I move my laptop. Just how amazing nature and rocks are, because it brings me to this moment as well. I was walking on the beach not too long ago, and I was feeling really, I was not feeling good. I kind of really just had to get out there that morning. I felt like my whole aura was tar. What happens when you sit on platforms like this and encounter all sorts of dodginess.
Oh, that's right.
And I was just, and I was like talking and I was like praying, and because I went up the ocean, walking on the water's edge. And I said, God, I just need a sign that I'm just on the right track. And within 10 meters, right on the water's edge, these two standing next to each other.
Oh, wow. See? Yes.
Little heart-shaped rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Standing right, they were laying right next to each other. And like this, like I'm showing you now. It was the most incredible thing. And I just said, thank you. I claim that. I claim that.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. And I look at these things, and it's just amazing because every now and again, I just pick them up and I just hold them, feel them, you know. And it's just a memory of love. And it's a memory that these rocks contain. Now, there's no itchy, witchy stuff about that. That is purely straight from God. So again, that's why I say not everything is bad, right? We've got to discern when something is negative and when something is positive, because we must never forget God created everything. And there's two sides of this world right now. There's the negative that works with these things and unfortunately has created a very negative perception on a lot of the stuff. And then there's those of us who work for God. We of the light, and we understand how powerful nature is. Just to be in harmony with nature, you don't get attacked because you understand that everything is there by the grace of God. It's an innate understanding. It might not be for you. It might not be what you want or you enjoy, but then move on, you know, and you'll find what you enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, and what you say is correct, because even he references source. So even the elementals were created by God because they were created at the time that the earth was created. And they were actually created to help the humans, help the farmers, help, you know, those sorts of things. And because of mistreatment by the humans, even the Indians were throwing puck wedgies to the giants to feed them so that they didn't eat their people. So they were betrayed again and again and again, and it made them kind of, you know, angry. There is a dark side of elementals and Fae to a light side of elemental and Fae. This one is of the light. Like I said, he even references you know, he understands who his creator is, and it's the same one that we have.
You are discerning enough to know what is dodgy and what is not, right? And that's where
Absolutely.
discernment comes in. And that's where discernment comes in. You would know soon enough whether he was up to any kind of dodgy mischief there. You'd pick it up in a heartbeat.
Yes. Yeah. And they can do that. If you upset them or make them angry, they can do that. But the thing is about this one, how things kind of transitioned was that we realized that traditional things that normally that we would use, because he was created before religion was created. So smudging and, a lot of the things that we would use normally to clear a house with maybe a disembodied soul weren't going to work for him. Elementals and Fae don't leave. You leave, or you make amends and you can negotiate with them. So we ended up having to stay there, and I told my son about the rock. So my son that day, he picked up the rock, he took it outside to a shedded area in the back to give it its privacy. And as my son's walking, I can see that we call him Bob because usually they won't give you their name, but he's okay with giving us his. It's like, blah, blah, blah. So we asked if we could call him something more simple, and we said like Bob or Jim or whatever, and he said Bob was okay. So we call him Bob. So he was behind my son flinging spiritual vines at his legs, trying to stop him from carrying off the rock of which my son was taking outside to return, but he didn't realize that. So my son's walking, he says, man, my legs itch. And I'm like, well, no wonder, because he's flinging vines to slow you down and stop you from taking that rock out. So the rock was taken out, and while he was following him, I of course opened the door and I was ushering out souls. I said, Papa's gone, this is your time to cross if you want to go. I can help you cross. And they were like, because he had a lot of spirits that he had been holding that I misunderstood as being like his prisoners for his entertainment. It turned out after I got to know him that he was actually holding them for protection, because these were people that died either exhausted in lower energy, because of sickness or because of depression.
So their frequency remained low, and they probably did not know that they were able to cross over, because a lot of people, when they die, that's what a lot of the ghosts are. It's obviously oftentimes people and creatures that have died traumatically and unexpectedly, or they don't have an understanding of there's life after death, eternal life. So they remain in these earthly realms, right?
Yes, and so absolutely. And so he was collecting them to protect them, because a lot of times when there are souls lingering in that realm, there are darker things that will try to take control. And he was holding them to protect them. So since then, they've all been crossed over. He's been very relieved to be relieved of the burden, because it was a burden for him constantly having to protect them. And he was thrilled to have them, crossed over and energized to go over. But before all of that happened, some funny things happened. My son and I, we negotiated with him that he would stay out of the house while we were there. We told him how long we would be there. And granted, on the other side, there's no time, but here we're linear, but he understood some of it. So he stayed back in the shed area in the yard with his rock. And my son at one point was changing the oil underneath his car, and it was in the evening, and he sees this spirit of a bear walking past his car. He could see the feet, and behind the bear were these other little feet walking along, which was of Bob. And so anyway, we had negotiated with him with he loves beignets, any baked goods or tobacco, some certain liquors and things like that, and gold and silver and things like that he likes. So anyway, where was I? Oh yes, okay. So what happened was on the day that we were ready to leave, there was a leak in the sink upstairs, and I had to get a plumber to come and repair it, because we were going to be gone a long time, and that leak would have leaked through the ceiling into the first floor and messed up everything. But we didn't tell Bob that our plans had changed to go an additional day. And there's a reason why I'm telling you this. It's actually kind of funny. So my son and I, we were waiting for the plumber who came that evening, and we left before the plumber got there to get something to eat and come back to meet the plumber. And when we came back into the house, Bob thought that we were leaving, and we could hear him grumbling. He sounded like the Tasmanian Devil, which is a cartoon an old cartoon, a Bugs Bunny cartoon that we had in America, this grumbling coming up from the back of the house. And I said, oh my gosh, we forgot to tell Bob that we're going to be here for one more day. So we spoke to him just like I'm talking to you and said, listen, there was a leak. We have to stay one more day. We are leaving tomorrow. And then you can have full reign of the house and the property. So we gave him something, and he was settled with that. That night, my son was loading my sister's truck because I was going to drive it back out of state. And I hear F-bombs being dropped. F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. We all know what F-bombs are, the middle finger. And so I thought that it was my son. I thought that he had injured himself because he was lifting some heavy things. So I run to the door to see what had happened. And my son's face is like right there. And I'm like, what happened? And he says, what? And I said, well, you were yelling out obscenities. I thought maybe you had dropped something on your foot or that you hurt yourself. And he said, that wasn't me. And I said, well, did you hear that? And he said, no. So lo and behold, the next day we're supposed to be leaving. My son went and started his car to charge up his battery a little bit before leaving. And he had my vehicle started, and he was hooking up the thing for the GPS and to charge my cell phone. And I come out onto the front porch, and all of a sudden I hear F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. And I again assume that's my son. So I walk over to the truck, and the door's open, and I said, is everything okay? And he says, what? And I said, why are you again dropping F-bombs? And he said, that's not me. Then we both hear F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. And when we looked back, there was Bob standing in the doorway of the shed. He thought that we were leaving. He wanted to make sure that we held up our end of the bargain, that we promised him, and that we weren't just going to leave and not deliver what we had promised him because he had done what we said. The agreement was there. And I thought that was kind of funny. So we went, told him that we were leaving. We left him with multiple things, a bell and some things for him, and we left. With that, we have traveled back multiple times. We have built a rapport. He does amazing things. We bring him crystals because we've learned that he says that he is a rock-un, like the word rock and UN. He wants to make that clear. The rock-un is a spirit of the ground in crystals. He works with the dirt and all sorts of things like that in the rocks. He was telling us that the rock, which you had mentioned, was something endearing. It was his precious. He said that he loves stories, and he said that the rock would tell him stories of ancient times that he enjoyed. So it was like his friend that way,
Wow.
or even like a child. Yes.
That would make such sense. Wow.
Yeah. And so it was precious to him, and he was angry when my sister took it and put it in the room because it was all that there were millions of rocks in the yard, but this one was his special rock. So he also then went on to mention about the fact that he had a rabbit. Now I have a dear friend, and I think she's in the audience today actually, who has been helping channel some of these things, and I appreciate it so much. She wants to stay anonymous, so I respect that. But through her and through some of my own meditations, we validated each other, and she's come up with some very, very beautiful things with the Fae and things like that as well. But he was talking about the fact that he had a rabbit and how the rabbit passed, and then he was given a white rabbit. This white rabbit was like his friend. He would do everything with it. It was a literal white rabbit. It was in physical form. And he'd mentioned that it had passed and how upsetting that was for him, that he felt lonely, that he almost died, with it. Now, the thing about elementals and Fae is they do not reincarnate. they live a very, 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 very long time. So he's been here since the earth has began and moving forward, and he'll still be here for a very, very long time. So he has told us a lot of very, very beautiful things. He has been setting up crystals in the yard to make triangles, and the triangles connect with silver, gold, and blue crystalline lights. At nighttime, when you overlook the yard, it looks like a quilted blanket, but with triangles instead of squares, and he has created portals in the yard. I'm telling you, there are some beautiful things in the yard if you're able to see with a spiritual eye of deer and foxes and spirits of bears and all kinds of things that he just fills the yard with sometimes at night. And
Wow.
with that, other elementals and fae have started to come as.
Oh no. Oh no. I'm like a kid listening to a story. And then everything just got cut off. Anyway, let's hope that. Where are you?
Here I am. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. But can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah, I was just getting to some of the good part. But
Lisa D, sorry, did she slip through?
Maybe. Okay, so slip through a portal. Well,
Lisa D, that is so sassy. I love
Lisa. I love Lisa. So, yeah, there you go. But many things that I have learned. I was actually approached by one of the higher ranking, I want to call it the queen of the Fae or whatever, and they've asked me to write a 3-series book based on the Fae to bridge the gap between the Fae and the humans. And they said that they would download the information, and I'm telling you, some of the stuff that they're downloading is off the charts beautiful. I mean, just unbelievable. And I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So, and it's stuff that I had no knowledge of, and it just kind of comes through as I'm writing. But they asked me if I would do this, and I agreed to do this. And they have made a couple of other promises with it, and they've kept up their end of the bargain, and I appreciate that. But I mentioned to them, I kind of argued with them a little bit in the sense that I said, are you sure that you want me to write these books exposing the inner workings of your world? I said, do you know how many people in the human realm of the third dimension would kind of try to turn this into a genie in the bottle kind of thing? You know, where they would have expectations and demands and everybody would want to own one. You know what I'm saying? And it's not about the ownership type thing. Everything is very much based in love. These beautiful beings have such an innocence about them that they have like this childlike wonder about them because they haven't been tarnished, and they're beautiful. And I mean, I would literally protect that rock with my life, literally, for this elemental, because it's that important. But the thing
it serves obviously as his own little universe that he's obviously worked with, you know, and I think that's amazing. Wow.
Yes,
incredible.
And he said too that there were other components of the rock that he wasn't able to divulge. But now all of these other spirits, of which I'm going to send pictures to you afterwards, that they're top secret because some of them will be going into my book, but I will share them with you. They're mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing.
I'd love to see.
Yes.
What's interesting, and I would just like to maybe touch on that. You know, we spoke, you mentioned earlier on, and I think this would be a good topic to actually talk about maybe more in depth in future shows, because we know that the Fae, the realm of Fae, left Earth because of abuse, that we had abused them. And it makes a lot of sense, because when you speaking to people like, again, Caleb Jade, who talks about the elven realm, and he says they're not what you think, but that would be the dark side. Those are the ones that are like literally declaring war on humanity right now. They hate us with a passion. But we know that the nature spirits are generally neutral, so they can go either way. So depending on, I guess, the individual spirit, I guess like every human too, we have the ability to go this way or that way. But it's interesting that they left again because we mistreated them in that way. Humans, unfortunately, I think, gosh, we have such a propensity to be amazing, but at the same time, we have this propensity to be the bloodiest, lustiest, most vicious ever. And that's why these guys use us, because we know they use us to manifest, right? They can't manifest themselves, so they need us to manifest for them. That's the bottom line. They use our consciousness and our louche, so to speak.
Yes.
So that's why it's better just to unplug from that system. But yes, so now it's time to start inviting them back, because really they are the protectors of nature. And if we look at what's happened to nature in the last, I want to say 100 years, I'm going to say 50, but I'm going to say 20. I just know in Africa, where I travel around, places I go to frequently, like year after year after year after year, I see how everything has changed. These great big mining companies, Australian, Canadian, all of these guys are in here with a vengeance, raping our continent. There's a lot of trees, being cut down, deforestation, that sort of stuff. Now, let us never forget, we have also been so desensitized to the fact that we are the only ones around, right? We are the only ones around. So anything that you see with your inner eye or your third eye is now hocus pocus, and you're crazy, and you're having fairy tale dreams. But that's where we see the real truth, when we open up our third eye and we get to that place where we can perceive beyond the physical realm. Then we see what we need to see. Then we see the truth, because that stuff doesn't lie. It's just the fact that we've been disconnected in our physical realm, and we are now so far away from our soul, our spirit, so to speak, that we are really bendable and pliable, and these forces are able to manipulate us in exactly the way they want us, until you choose not to be manipulated anymore. And I think that's what we must never forget, that since they've left nature, let's just look at it without even thinking airy fairy, right? Look at what's happened to nature. Look at our wildlife here, how it's been destroyed. Look at how many endangered species. And I'm not saying that's necessarily that a species doesn't have its time, whatever, but the destruction that happens here. And it's interesting that since they've left, since the realm of Fae have left, and only few are here that really can't do much against humanity, right? That's when these creatures of the night can just take over and destroy. Nature, the realm of Fae, the fairies have a magical quality about them that just tends to hide things, get people away, whatever it is, however it is they work. They understand that nature has to be balanced, and since they're not around, there's become a huge imbalance in nature.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And the thing is too, oh, by the way, fairies don't have wings, everybody. They self-propulse in the air. They don't have wings. Wings were something that humans put on them, like in the Elizabethan era or whatever it was, Elizabethan, whatever. But they don't. They're beautiful. They do ride in with butterflies and dragonflies and things like that are very, very beautiful. Sometimes you'll see them separate from them when they're navigating and traveling. But I've learned so much from Bob. And again, I want to make it very clear, because some religious beliefs have literally demonetized these beautiful beings that were created by God to assist the humans with things like that. And Bob was mentioning that him being a Rockin, he said that his father was a Rockin and that his mother was of the earth and trees and everything above the ground. And he said that normally the two don't get together, but his parents fell in love, and he has 7 brothers and multiple sisters. And part of the reason why he's still alone and not with a mate himself is because he's considered biracial, for lack of a better word, but spiritually. So he doesn't, they do have some division lines, like fairies don't get with Rockin, or trolls, that kind of thing. So could you
racism all over? I don't know what you call it in the realm of Fae.
well, there you go. But he tells, and that's why his skin looks a little bit different. It looks almost like there are roots. I asked him the last time that I was at the house, I said, I would like to see you physically. And all of a sudden on the back of the couch, I see these fingers going across the back of the couch like a piano. And they had 4 fingers. And they were fat like sausages. I expected them to be like gnarled and creepy. And the thing is too, is a lot of times these beings, they look like ghosts, only little tiny short ones. So they're mistaken by most people as ghosts or demons or of children. So people think that, that they're, just little,
right, but they're children. Yeah.
But they're actually not. They're of the Fae realm. But his fingers went across the path, and they were the same color as that rock. And his nails, they had a nail bed that was rounded like ours, but his nails came to a point but did not pass the skin but a little bit, and they were actually quite neat. And I thought that was interesting. And then his skin color, as I said, was the color of the rock. And this was a particular night where I'm sitting. I was told by my friend who helps me channel things that the Fae would be coming that night and to expect them. And sure enough, my son and I were sitting in the living room, we're talking, and all of a sudden my son says, do you see those 2 things standing over there by the door, by the front door? And he said they're yellowish, and they're changing over to colors of blue. And I looked over and I saw them too. And I said, oh, that must be the Night Fae. I was told that the Night Fae were coming. And in fact, they did. And after a short period of time, the whole room filled with these very curious beings who were thrilled because they had never been invited into a human home in the sense as a guest type thing. So everything, they were curious, like, what's that? What do you use that for? My son was upstairs on his computer and they're like, ooh, what's that? Type thing. So they were, again, that childlike wonder. And, this is such a treasure to me. And I feel so honored that I've been able to look into their world with a different set of eyes. And I don't care if anybody believes me or not. I have pictures, okay? And I have not
Listen, I believe you.
Yeah.
I think it is incredible that you are going to be writing books on this, because I think it's who's that guy that's the Brian someone? Do you know him? He writes a lot of the Fae stuff. Brian, I'll find out his name. I've got some of his stuff because many years ago I bought it. He's incredible as well. He's connected with an entire realm of Fae. And I mean, the way he explains each of them, I mean, and some of them are beautiful, others are gnarly and stringy and I mean, there is totally another realm. But as you say, it's been we've abused it.
Yes.
So it's up to us now to bring it back in a way that they can come and assist, because if we think only the visible 3rd dimensional realm exists, I feel so sorry for you.
I know.
You must be embarrassed if you think that. Don't think that. There's a lot more. So, and they are part of it. And, for many, many millennia, they did coexist beautifully with humans. And we cocked it up. And it's up to us to fix it now, to invite back what we can. And again, let's always remember, not everything is bad. We've been taught that. We've been taught that by the churches particularly. Why? Because that's how they keep us disconnected, by telling us it's evil and God will punish us. The way that they do it, that's evil. When you just align with God and nature and you're just in harmony, you're just being connected in the most beautiful way through love, through harmony. The magic that happens there is beyond anything anyone from the arcane could even imagine giving you.
Absolutely. And they are here coming back to help us, which is why they want to create that bridge of being reintroduced, because it's time. And the reason why it's time is because as we all are feeling this shifting in energy, where the third and the fifth are kind of starting to enmesh, and eventually the third will kind of fade away for those of us that are in that fifth dimension. The people with the consciousness of the fifth dimension will be ready and opened, because we'll actually even we'll inherit literally a sixth sense where we can look at someone and feel what they're feeling from their heart. So it'll totally make us react differently to people. But this is where the Fae realm comes in, where they won't be abused this time, where they will be, appreciated, and they'll be able to assist in the ways that they were intended to, the way that God made them to be able to do.
Yes.
And that's why they're encouraging the books being written now, even though I was a little bit holding back, because I know that there are so many humans that will still destroy it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm hoping that these books, as they come out, will have shifted more into that other dimensional frequency. And I'm going to tell you too, they are God's helpers. The angels are overwhelmed. Yes. The masters are overwhelmed. Jesus is overwhelmed. God has to delegate, because obviously he can do everything, but he wants to have more. Go ahead.
The way I see it, every single thing is an expression of God. It's like God's little fingers or arms or legs, whatever. That little fairy or that little gnome is an expression of God. It's nothing that's separated from God. So that is, we all created from the God spark, or the God light. And so is everything else as well, in different quantities, maybe. If you want to look at it that way, or maybe different ingredients put together in a different way. We're all different. We're all unique. But
Absolutely.
We are all created. And the way I see that is everything is an expression of God. So when you speak into someone and you really have reached that state of, and when I say enlightenment, I don't mean it in an airy-fairy way. I mean full consciousness, or consciousness that you get what you get, and no one can ever tell you any different, because it's right there, right? It's like so in you, and it's an expansive feeling. When we grow in truth, we expand. It's like, an aeroplane taking off type thing. You start and then you boom, off you go.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah, that is absolutely a beautiful way to put it. I love that analogy. And, also that we're there, that like Chantel was, we're coming from also a place of our heart. They have actually found that the heart has 50,000 times more memory than the brain does. And of course, our brains, we get monkey mind. So, if we focus more on the heart, it's very powerful. And there's even been examples, and I may have mentioned this on your show before, about transplants of people that have donated organs that have passed away. Did I tell you the story about the little girl in America? Did I tell you about the transplant story?
I can't remember offhand. I know we've spoken about a couple of things already. Yeah.
There was a little girl that was 11 years old that needed a heart transplant. And there was a second little girl who was murdered violently by an unknown assailant who left her for dead, and she died. The parents of the child that died donated the heart to the 11-year-old recipient. Over a 2-year period, and this is documented, people, you can look this up, you can verify it, this is documented. The 11-year-old, after about 6 months of having the heart, she started having night terrors. She was having flashbacks. Within the 2-year period, which of course she had the heart longer than that, but after 2 years, she was able to identify the murderer of the little girl that got killed. Yes, this is documented, people. You can look it up online. Girl heart transplant, look it up for yourself. I'm not kidding. And even
that is incredible, because as you're speaking, I'm trying to remember who I had this conversation with just a few days ago, talking about the energy. Obviously, if you have a body organ transplant or something like that. I mean, I've often heard stories of suddenly people who've had a liver transplant, suddenly they're eating very differently. They don't even they don't recognize certain people. Yes, exactly. Yes. They're completely different. So it would make absolute sense that the cellular memory that is still, it might not be the soul that's in there, no, but the body is the manifestation of the soul, the spirit in physical form. Let's never forget that. We have around 30 trillion cells in the body. One cell contains enough information to write 1,000 books of 600 pages each. That's how much intelligence is sitting within the physical cells of your body, which is why your body is so beautiful. So if you think for 1 second that you can hate your body, oh dear, please go and reconsider, because your body is the manifestation of your spirit. So when spirit leaves, and obviously the body remains here, that memory, that intelligence still sits within you. And I'm sure that's why the dodgy ones, most definitely, when they steal DNA and they start doing all sorts of things, they're using dead people or whatever, and that's how they're splicing with the DNA, because they know that.
Absolutely.
These guys are clever. They know everything. They know everything, but they use it for such nefarious purposes, right?
Absolutely. And, and speaking of the heart, and also that I as a medical professional, I've seen that firsthand. What Chantel is saying, I mean, people have woken up from bypass surgery, or they've had a transplant of some kind, and they are speaking they have all of a sudden this accent, or they, like she said too, there are certain foods that they hated that they're eating now, or even requesting food that isn't even of their culture, type thing that they're looking for to eat. So all of that's true. In the Fae realm, because their hearts are opened and they come from such a godlight in its finest form, because it's not tainted. And that childlike wonder, the love that just radiates from them is so beautiful for humans. And I mean, it will be more so. There's as things change and we shift and we start to learn about them and engage with them again to let them help us. Since I have had Bob in my life, of course, I still give our creator credit first, which is the way that it should be, that way, whatever your creator is to you. But because I have had Bob in my life, so many things have come to fruition faster for things. For instance, there was a feral cat in my yard, and it had a huge bulging eye that was obviously infected, and I felt so terrible for it, but I couldn't catch it to do anything for it. You know what I mean? So I asked, I said, Bob, can you please, because the night fae come and they heal animals during the night. I said, would you please have the night fae address this poor cat's eye? And lo and behold, within 2 days, it was back to normal. I kid you not. I kid you not. I mean, so many things. My income tax return, for that matter. I needed tires on my car, and I'm like, how long for my income tax return? And the guy told me that they were running behind, that it would be like 4 to 6 weeks. And I'm like, man, I really could use it now, because there are nails, and I had gotten repeated nails in one tire from driving down a street where they were building houses. And lo and behold, I got it in 2 days. I kid you not. I got it in 2 days. It's like impossible. So having the assistance of the Fae realm, things come a little bit quicker, in the sense that because they're more directly paralleling you and side by side, and they're there to help you, that they are able to help you with things. Now, they don't change karmic things. They can speed things up. They can create things. Just as another thing too, my partner Bill, there was a new guy that started working with him, and this man was very disgruntled and grumpy, and he was leaving trash in the trucks that they were driving, and he wasn't really following through on his job. And Bill said to me, he says, ask Bob if he'll make this man find a wonderful job or go somewhere else, because this isn't working out. It's making my job 1,000 times harder. And I said, well, I don't usually ask him for stuff like that. He says, tell him that I will give him a vial of gold flakes. And as appreciation for that. Lo and behold, the next week, my Bill goes back to work, and this guy is now on leave for bereavement. And then after the bereavement, they moved him to another state. So the guy is he's not working with my partner anymore. I mean, that happened within 5 short days. So they are miracle workers in that sense, that they do hear you and your needs. And again, the way that the human race is now, they could be so easily abused again. So I'm hoping with this 5th dimension that we're moving into, which is where they're going to connect more, where you will see them. Yeah, you will see them, and they will come back. And they're just, what a beautiful gift from God. Helpers.
They are absolutely, sorry, and I just want to say that I think they will align with you and assist you in manifesting that which is on your path. They're not going to bring other stuff in. And because they have the ability to speed things up, they will simply speed up what's already there in their little magical ways, if you will. But on the other side, they are super, super tricksters. And if you are not in your truth, or if you are out to hurt someone, harm someone, you're going to get back exactly what you're putting out. They will give it back to you tenfold, because they also, they're tiny and cute, but they are super, super powerful. They are the guardians of nature, which is everything about Earth is nature. So we should never underestimate that. And we should also never underestimate the power of what it is to have little friends like them. Who's not going to use a contact in government when you need a passport, right? In a rush. In 2 days you need a passport, and your first cousin works at the passport office. Don't for 1 second think you're not going to call your cousin and say, listen, can you make a plan, dude? Of course you're going to. It's the same in spiritual realm, but it's only going to happen if you are in line or aligned for that to happen. It's not going to happen unless you are ready or ripe for the picking, so to speak, for that to happen. I want to just make that clear, because people tend to misunderstand these things.
They do, and they're not pets, people. Don't mistake them as pets. They're not. They are beings of higher level that need to be respected. And that the problem with humans is that we put expectations and demands on things. And that's not what this is about. You ask, and they'll do it if they want to, and they won't. But unfortunately, that man that was moved to Georgia is thrilled. He's got a great job in Georgia. And my partner Bill is thrilled because he doesn't have to put up with Grumpy anymore. So he enjoys going to his job. So everybody's happy. So, there are limits that, like Chantal was saying, they're not going to break up relationships with other people for you or anything. They will help you on your path, your intended path. And so I feel so honored that they've asked me to write these books. I'm working on one of them now. I'm onto the 3rd chapter, and it's absolutely, the downloads are coming, and I'm telling you, you cannot even, the way that they put the downloads in, that you can envision the beauty of a luminescent beach, type thing. And just the beauty of the way that they set things up for this book. But I mean, it's going to blow your mind. It's absolutely going to blow your mind. And
I'm so excited to hear that.
Yeah.
So excited to when is your first one due out then?
I'm going to try to get it out by Christmas, by December. By December.
Not so long. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Also, I love it. They love my mint patch. They're probably drinking margaritas.
Probably. Well, they do like alcohol. Yeah, I
was going to say, I've got a whole, I don't show, but everything here has a fairy garden and crystals, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So my fairy up there was telling me to tell you that it's probably because they're drinking margaritas.
Probably, yes. And then and like I said, they do like alcohol. But the thing is too, is it's like, I mean, I wish that I could share the pictures with everybody, but I can't. But I am going to share them with Chantel, who will keep them in private. Everybody will get to see them in time when the book does come out.
We will see it. Yeah. I'm so looking forward to that. Wow.
Yeah. So these are real. I mean, they are real, and they're very, very special. I can't say enough good things about them. There's so many other stories that I have that I could share, but I know that we're running on time.
I would love us to actually maybe go more into the history in future shows of the realm of Fae. Like, what were they before? They left. What happened that they left? What was the final type straw? So I'd love for us to.
I can tell you a little bit of that real quick if you want. Of course, Lucifer was originally their king and Lucifer was this magnificent, very intelligent, beautiful angel of music. And somehow when he decided to take things into his own hands, it's like the two sides of, like in our country, we have the Republicans and the Democrats. Well, the Democrats follow the Democrat person, the Republicans follow the Republican person, and sometimes blindly. And in this case, they followed their king blindly. And that is what I've gotten from Bob. They are now trying to separate themselves from the dark part of they were never the dark part. There is the dark part and there is the light part, but they're trying to, the lighter part is trying to separate itself from that and to come back into the realm of helping and assisting humans like they were intended to be, if that makes sense. So again, they blind, and that's where religion kind of demonizes them, because they did follow, and Lucifer was their king type thing. But when you explain it in that way, and you understand that we all do that sometimes, we'll vote for somebody and maybe we don't know that they're a pedophile.
Well, excuse me. If you've stolen something from someone, that's Lucifer. That's a sin. In religion, that's considered a sin. Obviously, if you've, all of us have succumbed to temptation. All of us. So we can never judge someone who succumbs to temptation. Question is, do we get out of it, and do we find our way back? Or do we stay there? We can see there's a lot that are currently choosing to stay. We chose to see the error of our ways, so to speak, see the wrong, whatever you want to call it, or that this is definitely not a path to abundance or well-being.
Well, if you hear what
well-being.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
If you all are here watching Chantel, you are on the right track, people. I can tell you that, because she's got everybody going in the right direction. And the thing is that the Fae realm and the elemental realm are also going through some turmoil and transition and changes with that breakaway, if that makes sense. So they're also going through some issues that are getting straightened out, but they're having a trauma with it while they're in the transition of doing that. So I just wanted to, to mention that as well. It's not easy for them either, but they are coming back, and their intention and their heart is in the right place. So
that's so amazing. That's really great news. And I look forward to that. And, I mean, in the My Gaia book that you held up there, in there's a chapter on nature spirits and stuff as well. And I say, when you are planting your herb garden or your veggie patch or whatever, invite them in. Do a specific little invitation for them and you always do it. And again, I want to stress, this is all done in the name of God, right? If you feel like you need to pray first, that's fine. Me, I'm constant. I'm always, God works through me. I know that. I don't need to still question that. So what I'm saying is that invite them in, ask them to take care of your home, take care of your, and remember, everything is an expression of God. All these little things are expressions of God.
Something that they did disclose that I will share with everyone in reference to your gardens. They said that if you expectorate, spit, salivate, whatever you want to call it, on your seeds, that the seeds have the ability to analyze your saliva. And if there is something missing within your body when you plant them, the plant that it grows will have the substance within it that will nurture your body that you need. That's what I've been told. Now, is that mind-boggling or what? I'm telling you,
does not surprise me. But it does not surprise me because, you see, when we just go back again to before the fall took place, we were doing all of this anyway. Our ancestors we were all very connected. It's only since the fall that we've become disconnected. We're kind of finding our way back again. And slowly but surely, step by step, we're going to pick up the missing pieces. And that's why it's amazing to have people like yourself out there who's picking up these missing pieces and sharing them with us. So for me, that's what it is. We've all been subjected to the Great Fall. We're all living in a world in which we're trapped in a matrix. But the only reason why we're trapped in the matrix is because we've disconnected from spirit, the true essence of who we are. We're constantly talking about how people can get back to that. So there's lots of information on this channel about how we can do that. So you really just have to leave that which doesn't serve you and reconnect with that which does. And you're like a tree. When the roots grow deep, there's no need to fear the wind. So then no matter what happens in life, you're connected, you're independent, although you have lots of friends and special beings around you, you're never alone. The tree knows that. Yeah.
Oh, and that's a funny thing too, that you mentioned the trees. My friend was helping channel some things too, and it came out that the night fae prefer coming out in the nights. They come out at dusk or dawn, and then they leave at dawn. Or is it the other way around? They come out when it becomes dark enough that it's dark, and then they leave in the morning before sunrise. But they were making mention that the reason, that they prefer the night over the daytime is because the trees are sleeping, and because the trees are very chatty during the daytime and they make a lot of noise.
And never stop talking.
Yeah, that's what they said. So
it's like, can you believe my ears?
Exactly. Yeah, but I thought, so they're a little bit cheeky sometimes too, and they have, sense of humor. But I thought that
very was cheeky.
Yes.
Very cheeky.
But I thought that was cute.
I don't know if I always attract the cheeky ones, but it was the cheeky ones that come to me, give me a hard time.
There you go. There you go.
Wow, what a great conversation around these beautiful little creatures. Yeah,
they are. Yep. And I'm so happy to be here to be able to share this. And, if you are in this group right now, you are open to this, and this is some of what you need to hear. I love the show that Chantel has because it's the advanced class. It's for people to come in and congregate of like mind to talk about things. And even those people, there's sometimes, people, they have to do their little negative comment, but really, it's not really, no one here is being judged, and it's not really any one person's place to bear false witness against this show, because it really is based on God. It's based on love. It's based on all the right things. However, it's the stuff that has been sometimes forgotten that is now being brought back to our world, which I'm grateful for. And also that it is a comfort place for those of us of like mind to come to be able to talk to other people of like mind and validate ourselves and connect with that energy that's so positive and learn new things. I mean, nobody's an expert in this field. There's no experts, because you're constantly learning, constantly evolving. It's impossible to know it all, type things. So I'm really, really grateful to be here with you and all of your beautiful subscribers and people that are here. So.
And absolutely likewise. And it's so great. We're all going to have you back again in a couple of weeks. And I'm so happy to hear that you're writing these books. That is fantastic news. And I can't wait to read your first one. I can't wait to see the pictures. And it's just so great to know, again, that all of us are just here doing our little thing to bring peace and harmony and stability back to our beautiful, beautiful planet. And it begins here. Here with each and every person.
On multiple levels too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true what you say, even though there's negative Nancy's around, oftentimes, in fact, not oftentimes, when you speak to the wise men, your friends are the ones, they're wonderful and it's awesome to have them, but your foes are the ones that challenge you, so to speak, on whatever level, are the ones that you really should be paying attention to, because very often they're telling you the things about yourself that you really need to know. So question is it always true? Yes or no? No. Then if you know yourself well, you will know what's true and what's not true about yourself. And I've got to tell you, Lynn, you would know, sitting on a platform like this, and we often say this, you've got to have a tough skin like that. But for me, it's actually just not even, people want to say things, they must say it. You shall know them by their fruits, None of us are perfect. I have good days, I have bad days. We all do. But innately, we know who we are. And that's what's important, yeah?
That's true. And, those people that are in that frame of mind, let's just put it that way, for them to even be coming to even listen to a sentence or 5 words, they are internally seeking in another way that they may not even be fully aware of. So the seeds are being planted, and the seeds are golden seeds that are so important that at some point with that person, or what naysayer, or whatever you want to say, that person, those seeds are going to start to grow, and it then will open things up for them. And you're going to be like one of the first people that they come to saying, I had this, this event happen, this awakening happen, my heart has opened. But a lot of what they say that is negative is out of fear of change and fear of the unknown. They want to stay on that herd mentality and that path because it's comfortable. But you can't stay in the middle of the fence anymore, because the energy is going to shift you. You're either going to be left in the 3rd dimension or elevated into the 5th dimension. So, and not 5th dimension as in that we're going to die people, or we're still going to stay embodied, but there's going to be almost like a crystalline luminescence about the people in the 5th dimension that any people on the fence will also want to achieve and say, I want to be like what you have or whatever. And then we help them to learn and help them over. So
yeah, exactly. And you see, stuff like this can't ever be cheated. That's the thing. You can still take shortcuts and cheat your way through things through a bit of bribery and corruption or manipulation tactics or whatever for a while. But when we're moving, like now we're moving into the positive and the negative, 5D positive, 5D negative, right? So you can't, when we're moving through that bottleneck, so to speak, of energy, you can't cheat that. You will get stuck, or you're going to get sucked off to the negative. But you have to yourself personally have needed to reach a certain frequency within yourself. And there again, let me please remind everybody, the word frequency is definitely not new age. This world was created, this world was created from sound, frequency, and vibration. So energy is frequency. Everything is frequency. And the only way that you really authentically, the difference between transmute and transform. Transmute means you can often, let's say, transmute from anger to joy, or unhappy to happy. In, you know, you can change your mood, basically, right? But you can go backwards and forwards with that forever, and you can get nowhere, right? You get to manage certain things then. But when you transform, that's the true essence of the word transformation. In other words, you then change that negative authentically back into creative life force. In other words, you've therefore understood what your purpose has been. You've understood why you needed to face that negative challenge, because every negative challenge, no matter what it is there to make you grow. There's an opportunity for growth. So we really just have to understand that, because when we can understand that, that's when it occurs. But then it means it doesn't just happen. You've got to get there to happen, and you've got to change. Gosh, excuse me, but you can hear I'm winter, yeah? You've got to change certain things. The things that have been holding you back is what you've got to go back and transform. In other words, pain has a very low density. Rage, anger has a very low frequency. If you are hiding any of those energies in your energy field, no matter how much you try and cover it up with all sorts of other things, you can never hide from that. It's like having rocks in a sack. It's going to hold you back. No matter how pretty that sack you're putting the rocks in is, it's still a sack that contains the rocks, and the rocks are there. Okay. So the whole thing is just to understand that it's about love, loving, appreciation, empathy. You don't take on other people's pain, but you can understand their pain. And you can never, you're always going to take on other people's pain while you still have your own pain. Do you see what I'm saying? So pain people will often attract pained people, stuff like that. But when you work through your pain, then you're able to help others work through theirs as well. Misery loves company, but so does joy. Joy loves friends. Oh dear, we love having friends when we're in joyful mode. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. Wow. You know, and the thing is too, is also love and joy are repellents to otherworldly negative things. You know, people, you know, yeah. We could do a whole nother show on attachments and mental illness and things like that. But the other realms, those lower level realms and the darker things, can't come around you and affect you if you are radiating that love and joy, because they hate it. So
it's too bright. It's like having a car with super, super bright headlights coming at you. You can't look at those headlights. You look away. You turn away. You go in the other direction. That's right. What it's like energetically.
Exactly. Yep, that's absolutely correct. So definitely, and something too that I have found with the heart and with love also, when I do go into homes to clear people's homes or things like that, I have found that radiating that love light from my heart into the room, filling it with the pink light, And sometimes, you can even you envision the heart chakra with that pink sparkling light coming out and filling almost like sonar rings. And you say in your head, love, 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 because you don't want to get monkey mind. It tries to take you into another area, especially if there's something darker in the room trying to make you shut up, so you're like, love, 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 love. You can do it outwardly, and it disables them to the point that they're not able to do more physical acts, whereas the emotions of the loosh, of the negative emotions type thing, I mean, that's their chocolate, that's their candy. They feed off of that, and it exacerbates things. So when in doubt, even if you're having an argument with your loved one, or if you're having problems with someone, or if there's somebody at work that makes your nose itch, if you can sit for a minute and envision that person, or you don't even have to be with them. You can be at home, but you envision them in front of you, or you are actively in their space and you envision them in front of you. And you imagine that pink light, heart light going from you to them. It can diffuse the situation.
Totally.
Yes, it can at least neutralize it at the very least.
Kill them with kindness. Kill them with kindness. When you walk into a situation that is tense, and you just actually speak kindly to people, and you listen to people. People need to be heard. That's the one thing as a healer for more than 20 years. With when I start seeing clients, they have their first 90-minute session where they get to talk and tell me all their dramas and dramas and dramas and dramas. After that, I don't entertain their dramas anymore. That's it. Because now we're moving forward, not back, we move forward. But it's incredible when you start doing it like that, and you realize when you listen, when you take an interest in someone who's never, ever had, the checkout lady, we have African people checking out at our grocery stores and stuff. And it'll be late on a Saturday night or a Sunday night, and these people are working, and it's freezing outside, or it's a beautiful day, it's December and it's holidays, I always make a point of buying them something, always. Aww. Just thank you, here you are. And they always remember me. They always remember a little chocolate, something small. Thank you for working over Christmas. Or like I go to the petrol station in the middle of the night. I needed milk one night at like 2:00. I was up working. And I went there and I said, this woman sitting there in the freezing night behind the counter, I said, thank God for you. I said, really, you've just saved my life. And I bought her chocolate. I said, you get to choose any chocolate you want here, just so I can say thank you. So she said, I don't need chocolate, but I'd love some coffee. I said, well, there you go. And, it's just stuff like that where you notice somebody else. You take a time just to have a smile, say hello, how are you? How's your day? How's your child? That sort of thing. It makes a big difference.
It does.
To people.
It does. And your reward back is that smile. And it's also very, very important to be the change that you want to see too. So,
absolutely
got to take, responsibility for that. How long are we on today? I didn't want to start on.
Okay. No, well, look, I think it is. We it's fun. No, we didn't. No, it's fine. Okay. We've been on for nearly an hour and a half, which has been fantastic.
Yes. And I'm okay with that. I didn't know if you wanted to continue or if we want to do part 2 at another time or
I think we'll do. I think let's do part 2 when at our next show. I think it's super interesting.
Okay, I'll have some great material too. Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And I want to just say thank you so much again to all you amazing women and men who come and support our show. I always say this, maybe not every time, but it means so much to have you guys here in the chat and tuning in and listening to stories and incredibly interesting people. And I feel blessed to have many of them on this channel. So, Lynn, if there's anything else you'd like to say just before you end off as one of these incredible people?
Yeah, don't forget to buy her book. Don't forget to buy her book. It's an excellent book.
Go buy my book.
Yeah, go buy her book. It
Yeah.
definitely, like I said, it's a wonderful book. I've got a few things. My show just released on Gaia. I did a show here in the United States on a network called Gaia with George Norrie, who hosted it, called Beyond Belief, talking about elementals and other things like that, what death and dying and that sort of thing. It just released about a month ago on TV, so I'm very, very proud of that. If anybody wants to see it, I've got a couple of things coming up. I'm going to be doing Journey Through the Gate with Cisco every Sunday night for the next 2 months. I'm going to be coming back on as a regular, I'm hoping, with Chantil, like once a month or something like that, when we get all of that worked out, or however that goes. I'm honored to do that. I've had just multiple things going on in all positive directions, so I'm glad that way. And I send love and light to everybody. And if you do notice something a little smaller than 3 feet tall, might even be 2 feet tall, just say hello and thank you, because it's not something bad. Believe me, sometimes they look like little eggheads walking around, because there's if they come in a whole bunch of them, they can protect you, they can help you, and you thank God for them, because God created them. So
absolutely, absolutely, little cutie patooties.
Yes.
Okay, everybody. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time. And definitely, Lynn, we will have you back for our monthly chats.
Thank you, lovely. And I will send you
everybody.
I will send you those pictures as soon as we sign off.
Indeed. Thank you so much.